Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Umagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Dena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I'm reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, first chapter, text number 20. The translation is, Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked he performed many superhuman acts. Purport: the doctrines of anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Sri Krishna or the personality of Godhead. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays, especially in India. Since Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead, as indicated in revealed scriptures, many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. This process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. Any popular personality with a few traits of mystic powers will display some feat of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of Godhead by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appeared before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. Then at the request of the mother, he became like a human child and at once left her for another devotee at Gokula, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladev, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, and that anyone who is so fortunate as to know the transcendental nature of his birth and deeds will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos, and in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one's reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, that his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted Govardhan Hill at the age of 7, and that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yet due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and mother took it otherwise, and they remained satisfied with unflinching filial love for their son. As such, the sages of Naimisaranya describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the Supreme Almighty Personality of Godhead. So Krishna is the fountainhead of all incarnations. Bhavayat yesha satvena lokan bhai lokabhavana līlā vataranurato devatirya naradishu. And in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam pravartite iti matva bhajante mam buddha bhava samanvitaha. Krishna is overflowing with joy, and to expand that joy, he manifests himself in many varied forms. And the first expansion of Krishna is Balaram, his counterpart, as Prabhupada uses the word here. And Balaram is same as Krishna, or as they say in Thailand, same, but different. In that he's as powerful as Krishna, he's Vishnu Tattva, but he's a different color and different mood, or as they say, abhiman. His mood is that he's a servant of Krishna, and he facilitates Krishna's enjoyment. And from the expansions of Balaram come many more facilitators of Krishna's enjoyment. Of course, in the spiritual world itself, the spiritual realm is described. Goloka namni nijadamni taleta tasya devi mahesha haridama suteshu teshu te prabhava nichaya vihitascha yena govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Lowest of all is Devidam. Above Devidam is Maheshdam. Above Maheshdam is Haridam, the abode of Hṛdy. And above Haridam is Krishna's own realm, Goloka Vrindavan. And there, Balaram is the first manifestation. And in Vaikuntha-dham, he's there as Mahasankarshan. He also manifests himself in the Chaturvyuha. The Chaturvyuha, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Ananiruddha. And then he manifests into the Purusha avatars that we know very well because they're mentioned in the beginning of the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Kaviraj Goswami, that these Purusha avatars, beginning with Mahavishnu, who lies on the Karna ocean, then by his glance energizes the Mahatattva, and then he expands, does Mahavishnu, into Garbhadakshay Vishnu, who enters each one of the universes, and then Kshirodakshay Vishnu, who enters into every atom. Ekopya Sora Charitam Jagaranda Kotim Yach Chaktirasti Jagaranda Chayayaranta Andantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govindamari Purushantamaham Bhajami. And also within the heart of every living entity, Sarvasya Chaham Hṛdy Sani Vishto Matak Smritir Jnanam Pohanam Cha. There he reminds the living entities of their previous desires for enjoyment in the material world, even after they're manifest, after being held within the body of Mahavishnu. So, Gunamayar Bhavir Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmabi Swa Nirmiteshu Nirvishto Bhunte Bhuteshu Tad Gunan. The Lord, as Supersoul within the heart, subtly reminds the living beings their path of enjoyment in the material world. So all of those Purusha avatars are expansions of Balaram to facilitate Krishna's shrishti līlā, in which he expands himself for the pastime of saving the conditioned souls. And beyond that, he takes the form of Shesha. Shesha means the remainder. Any service that's still left over, he'll take that too. And there are only a tiny portion of living beings who are overcome by the spell of Maya in the material world, who miss out on the opportunity to embrace the service mood that Balaram embodies, which is that I'm a servant of Krishna, I'm a servant of Krishna. Whereas Shri Advaita says, I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, I'm a servant of Lord Chaitanya, and a servant of servants. And so Balaram serves Krishna in the form of the Guru to help reawaken the mood of service within living beings. And in the pastimes in Vrindavan, Balaram appears as the elder brother of Krishna. He was very purposeful in coming as the elder brother because he appears with Krishna as his expansions in all of his pastimes. In Lord Ramachandra's pastimes, he comes, does Balaram, as Lakshmana. And note his dutiful nature that although Ram's banished to the forest, some ordinary low-class brother might say, good luck, brother, I'll stay here, take care of the kingdom for you while you're gone for 14 years. But Lakshman dutifully says, I'm going with you. First he says, let's fight and we'll take it back. I'll single-handedly defeat everybody, give you the kingdom back. But then he goes with Ram and Sita and clears the way as they go through the forest, and he stays up all night guarding them and takes care of all their needs. This is the mood of Balaram. In Goloka Vrindavan, he expands himself into all the paraphernalia that Krishna uses. Nice Brahmin's thread and the bed that Krishna sleeps on. Any of the paraphernalia, that's all expanded from Lord Balaram to facilitate Krishna's pastimes. And Balaram is juxtaposed in Lord Krishna's pastimes in very interesting ways. When Balaram notices that there's the Kurukshetra battle coming up, he leaves and goes on pilgrimage. It's a permission for us to go on pilgrimage because both Balaram and Nityananda do it. Balaram is Nityananda, by the way. In Krishna līlā, we have Krishna and Balaram. In Lord Chaitanya's līlā, we have Chaitanya and Nitai. That's why we sang this morning Nitai Pada Kamala. The main reason is because Prabhupada sang it on Balaram Jayanti also. And went along just as if he's talking about Balaram and Nityananda. I was thinking this morning how in our Sampradaya we get a twofer because whatever we do, we have Krishna Balaram and Gaur Nitai at the same time in both of their pastimes. In the pastimes of Krishna and Balaram, who befriended Duryodhana, and Balaram, who didn't want to get involved in the Kurukshetra battle, went off on pilgrimage and stayed there for some time. And during those pilgrimages, he came close, is mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam, to Jagannath Puri, but he didn't go there because he felt embarrassed that his deity that was there on the altar, mentioned in the purport. And so he has this interesting sensitivity. In the pastimes of Balaram's pilgrimage, we find that he also stops in Naimsharanya, where the sacrifice, 1,000-year seminar is taking place to discern what is the best possible way to utilize the human life to do good for oneself and for everybody else, for all living beings. And one of Balaram's duties is to maintain dharma. When he approaches the assembly, Romaharshan is seated on the seat of Vyas. And everyone stands up because they recognize Balaram as the personality of Godhead. Except Romaharshan. If you're thinking stand up or don't stand up, better idea stand up. Indra did it too when Brihaspati came into assembly, and he was a little too comfy. People, all his minions worshiping him, and Brihaspati came in and noticed that Indra didn't stand up, and he didn't stay around long. Brihaspati turned around and walked out. And right after that, Indra lost everything. And when Balaram came into the assembly, Ramaharshan similarly didn't stand up. And that's when Balaram noticed his non-qualification. He thought how he came from a mixed caste, but he wouldn't even notice that. It doesn't matter. Kirata hunanda pulinda pulkasha abhirashumba yavana kasaraya yene chapapayara pashraya shaya shudyanti tasmai pravishnave namaha. Anyone, if they are subservient to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and of course know the science of Krishna, can present it, doesn't matter. But the main qualification is that you recognize the Supreme Personality of Godhead and you stand up out of respect. Ramaharshan didn't do that, and Balaram mystically executed him right there in the assembly. This is one of the ways that the Balaram and those who are representing Balaram function in the world. We don't execute people, but we do try to kill the demoniac spirit by giving the tattva, explain what the main goal of life is, and give people an alternative lifestyle. And we've seen that some people, even murderers, when they come in contact with Balaram, Nityananda, they reform their lives. Like our Balavan Nitai, in jail forever for this lifetime for capital crimes. And his story is that he read about Lord Nityananda and then changed his mind about being a murderer, and has become a gentle, except when he has to defend himself in jail, servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Balaram in that assembly, after killing Ramaharshan Sutta, Ramaharshan had then received the questions of the sages there that, how have you done this? Because we had already granted him long life. They were lamenting that just after setting up everything, Bhagavatam class was about to start. The main speaker they had flown in was now dead. They said, what are we going to do? And so Balaram suggested that they elevate Ramaharshan's son, Sutta Goswami, to the seat of esteem. And he also agreed, for the setting an example, that he would accept penance. Whatever the sages had recommended, he would do to purify himself from any reaction for killing Ramaharshan. Which again is only for example, because there is no reaction to Balaram, for Balaram in this world. He is not subjected to the laws of karma. So they asked him to help protect their yagyas, because at that time there was a demon who has regularly defiling their yagyastalis. So Balaram, after Sutta was established on the seat, had then gone and killed, what's his name? The demon? Huh? No. The one who was throwing stuff at their... No. Balval. So he killed Balval. And since you mentioned Dvidvid, it's one of the other characters that Balaram deals with. As Krishna kills demons, so does Balaram. And Balaram, story of Dvidvid is interesting. It's mentioned in the Bhagavatam about Dvidvid and his associate Minda. Both of them come from Ram Līlā, millions of years ago. And they had been highly placed in the army of Lord Ram under Sugriv. And they were great devotees. But they had Dvidvid, and both Dvidvid and Mainda had notably become degraded because of their offending devotees. And Dvidvid had descended to such a lowly position that he came to harass the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Balarāma. Lord Balarāma was in Vaisesika mountain performing his pastimes and dancing with his gopis, and Dvidvid was going around harassing everybody. He came to the ocean, and with his huge arms, he would swirl them around and create floods, kind of like tsunamis, overflooding the ocean and all the beaches, just to make people miserable. That's what happens when someone becomes degraded. And when Dvidvid heard the music, beautiful music coming from the Vaisesika mountain, where Balaram was dancing with his associates, then he went there and began showing funny faces towards the gopis there. And they were in a jovial mood, so when he crossed his eyes and raised his eyebrows and made monkey faces, he was a monkey, big monkey. They all laughed and thought it was funny. But then he turned around and showed his backside and showed his private parts right there in front of them, in front of Balaram also. So Balaram threw something and hit him in the head, which then ensued then began the game of cricket. Everything comes from Krishna. So they're hitting rocks. He was hitting rocks. They were both using natural weapons. The trees, they deforested the area, and the rocks throwing at each other. Finally, Balaram killed Dvidvid there in that spot. And he killed other demons as well. Pralambasura is notable. Beautiful description that I was thinking of this morning when I saw the outfits that Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan and Mahaprabhu are wearing, that it reminded me in the hot summertime in Vrindavan, as hot can be. But when Krishna and Balarāma are there performing their pastimes, the Bhagavatam describes how it's just like a second spring, because the waterfalls are gushing forward, and then there's mist coming from them that cools everyone. The rivers, the Jamuna, overfloods at that time and makes a nice, cool, muddy environment. And nobody suffers. And Krishna goes on with his playing during the hot summer. And every day they engage in games, Krishna and Balaram, with their cowherd friends. There's a special tree called Vrindavan. It's a big banyan tree. And they use that as a marker for one of their games, which is hide and seek. And they would blindfold kids, and they would have to figure out other kids' identities just by touching them on their hands. And they also played hide and seek. And there was a penalty if you lost, which you'd have to carry the winners on your shoulders. During that game, one of Kamsa's representatives came there and very intelligently figured out, this is called duskriti. Prabhupada explained there's sukriti, which means you're very intelligent and you figure out how to do nice things, and duskriti means that you're a very bad person and you have great intelligence, but you use it to do bad things. So it was Pralambasura. Hate to mention his name, but there it is. he was a duskriti. He had very keen intelligence. How keen was intelligence? That he could ascertain that one of the cowherd boys had not come that day. And because he was a mystic, he transformed himself to look exactly like the missing cowherd boy and came into the assembly to play games, apparently, but he was actually there representing the mission of Kamsa, which was to kill Krishna in Vrindavan. So he reckoned that he would play the game and then he would take Balaram on his shoulders. Balaram being on the winning team, which he did. And they were all to carry their victors down to the Vrindavan tree, and then they could climb off. So Pralambasura looked just like a little cowherd boy, and so did Balaram. And everyone was heading down to the Vrindavan tree, but Pralambasura just kept going. He passed the tree because he thought, I'll take him far away, because the further away from Krishna I am, the better when I dispose of him, because he thought Krishna is very powerful, I have to be a little careful. Little did he know that Balaram is the all-powerful, the strength, the source of all strength. So as he continued past Vrindavan, Balaram noticed, and you missed the tree, we're supposed to stop. And he saw that this was not what he thought. It's not just a little coward boy, but the demon began to manifest. Balaram stayed the same, but he became as heavy as Mount Meru. So the demon was now feeling the weight of him, and he assumed his original size and horrid features as a demoniac person. And when at first Balaram feigned some fear, but then Krishna reminding him that, why are you playing like a human being right now? There's demons to kill. He wrested himself away from his human-like pastimes, and he bashed in the head of Pralambasura. That began to pour forth, from which began to pour forth the blood that looked like manganese that comes out of the mountain when a mountain gets hit by the thunderbolt of Indra. And then he came crashing to the ground. And Balaram had dispatched of him in such a way that the coward boys were very excited and began to celebrate, as did the demigods, who often would look on these pastimes and celebrate the killing of these great demons, who are a scourge to the whole universe. Meanwhile, on the esoteric side, Bhaktivinoda Thākura writes in the Chaitanya Shikshamrita that each one of the demons in the līlā of Krishna represents an anartha. So we can consider that as we have various obstacles. These are personified in Krishna's pastimes. Obstacles means there are desires for fame, adoration, distinction. There are desires to enjoy the material world unrestrictedly. Naturally there, for someone who's been involved with the material world. So coming into the world, we take to the process of devotional service. And Rupa Goswami says, Anyabhilashita shunyam, that when you become shunya, free from any other motive or impulse to enjoy the material world, then you'll be fully engaged in perfect devotional service. So how would one become free from these anarthas? They seem powerful, all-powerful, and very difficult to defeat. So Bhaktivinoda Thākura explains that the demons that Krishna kills represent the kinds of anarthas we have that we can overcome, especially by hearing Krishna līlā. śṛṇvatāṁ sva-kathāḥ Kṛṣṇa, puṇya-śravaṇa-kīrtanaḥ, stho abhadrāṇi, vidhunoti satām. The abhadrāṇi means inauspiciousness, but if you personify it, you think of those wanton desires within the heart that distract us from devotional service to be like the demons in Krishna's pastimes, of which we know Braja Rasa Bhāvana memorized within one day, I remember, a few years ago. How would they be killed? Especially by śṛṇvatāṁ sva-kathāḥ Kṛṣṇa, by the kathā about Krishna. It has a special potency to kill those anarthas within the heart. And then Bhaktivinoda Thākura says that the demons that Balaram kills in the pastimes in Vrindavan and elsewhere are of a slightly different category. And he says that they can be overcome, especially by following the orders of the spiritual master. It means one should do one's due diligence to be vigilant in following the process of devotional service to overcome these various anarthas represented in Vrindavan by the demons that Balaram killed. Implication there is that Balaram expands himself through the various gurus, the Vartmana Prataksha Guru, the Shiksha Gurus, the Diksha Gurus, and so forth. And there's a way in which these are a lifeline from Lord Balarāma in this world. Naivopayantya patitim gavayastavesha brahma yushapi kridam rida udasparanta. Yontarvahis tanupritam ashubam vadun matnacharya chaitya vapusha swakatim vinakti. Says Uddhava that, Krishna, you're so kind, you manifest in all these different ways. Those manifestations are really direct expansions of Krishna into Balaram, and Balaram, then that's his potency. That's why people notice when they take shelter of the Sri Guru Parampara that they feel more equipped to deal with the anarthas, because Balaram's there ready to help. We have to grab on and take his help. And he will smash the heck out of him. But we should position ourselves in such a way that he can assist us. Balaram also points to the way to Vrindavan. We know in the story in the Chaitanya Charitamrita of Sri Minikatana Ramdas. He was one of the followers of Lord Nityananda. All of the followers of Lord Nityananda come from the mood of the Gopas in Vrindavan. And they have that Sakya Ras. And Minikatana Ramdas was at the house of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's brother was engaged in worshipping the deity there. But he had misconceptions. He understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he thought Nityananda, Balaram, he said, who is this person? Several people thought that because he was an avaduta, was Lord Nityananda. Minikatana Ramdas was a follower of Lord Nityananda. And so Kaviraj Goswami's brother, to indirectly or directly insult Lord Nityananda, had insulted Minikatana Ramdas, who was there in a jovial mood during the festival at Kaviraj Goswami's house. And interestingly, Minikatana Ramdas had understood exactly why he had disrespected him, and therefore he broke his flute in anger and had left that place. And just after that, Kaviraj Goswami said, my brother fell down from that offense. And Kaviraj Goswami, seeing the offense also, left his house. And he went away some distance. And that night, he was dreaming. And Lord Nityananda came to him in a dream and had advised him that he was very pleased with him for leaving that place. And then he told him, you go to Vrindavan, for there you will attain all things. So that's why Kaviraj Goswami went to Vrindavan. He got the direct order of Lord Nityananda. So we find that Lord Balarāma manifested. We're sitting on him. He's the potency that manifests all the worlds and facilitates all of Krishna's pastimes, is there as the instructor, as the initiator, as the one who introduces us to the path of devotional service. And Lord Nityananda, Balarāma, is especially merciful to fallen souls, knowing Lord Chaitanya's main purpose in life. He goes out of his way to bring everyone closer to Krishna, whether they seem qualified or not. So we've inherited that mood that comes down through Balarāma and Nitai. In our disciplic succession, the acharyas are all dedicated to this mission of saving conditioned souls within the material world, which is mentioned by the prayers personified Vedas. Krishna's most glorious pastime is saving the souls from the material world. And also, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu invited us to connect to the potency of Lord Balarāma by becoming teachers ourselves of the message of Krishna and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and going from door to door to give it to as many people as possible. That's why it feels so good to go out on Sankirtan, is because when we do, we're directly connected with Lord Balarāma and Nitai in his mood and mission to serve Krishna. And arguably, our acharyas present that the best kind of service that one can do is to avail others of the opportunity to take to Krishna consciousness. Now we have a couple of minutes. If you have a reflection or a question. Yes, Kota Karnava, source of all entertainment.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, thank you for the nice class. On Sankirtan, sometimes people ask, when they see a picture of Krishna, is he a male or a female? Because he looks like long hair and red lips. So somebody was asking me yesterday. So I said he is spiritual being, he's beyond male and female. But we do see in the spiritual world there are forms like male and female. So how do we understand and explain this better?
Well, it takes a little orientation, because the ideas of what's attractive are seen through the lens of the eyes of somebody in the modes of goodness, passion, or ignorance, and various standards of beauty. It requires seeing. It requires purification. So, Gajendra says the same thing. He said, you're not male, you're not female, whatever. But again, he's the Adipurusha, it's the supreme male from whom everything else emanates, the creator of everything. And your answer is good enough for the person on the street to explain to them that, but it takes a little time to orient one's vision to the deities, to Krishna, to the auspiciousness, as the descriptions in the Nectar of Devotion, what does an auspicious body look like? And nowadays, there are various representations of what is supposed to be the most beautiful male or female. And there's a lot of, I notice there's androgynous, is that the word? Androgyneity. Do you know what that means? Hard to tell if somebody's a male or female. It's become more popular with the big fashion companies to present somebody who looks sort of both male and female at the same time. Am I the only one who notices these things? Or yeah, it's common. And then, what's that? There's unisex and androgynous. Androgynous. Look it up. Androgynous. And at different times, there are different standards of beauty. At certain times, women were considered more beautiful if they were voluptuous and lots of curves and more full-bodied. And then came along, I don't know when it was, 1970s, 60s, when Twiggy, lucky you guys missed it, but Twiggy was very skinny and no breasts, and she became the icon of beauty. And in each era, there are different according to how things go. Of course, then you used to have to wear shoulder pads to have a cool jacket, and then it became, and it's probably not anymore, we probably missed it, it went by so fast, everything has to be tight and skinny. I just noticed people walking around with pants that go up to your shins, where we used to joke with kids if they came to school like that and say, "Are you waiting for the flood?" But that's the way fashion goes, and fashion in body and so forth. These are in the modes of nature. They're always changing, and everyone gets tired of looking at this and went try that. Androgynous. Spell it. These guys don't get, their funding is finished. They don't get microphones anymore. No more funding. We can't get another mic. We melted it down for something.
The spelling is Androgynous. And it's an adjective.
Say it.
Androgynous.
Androgynous, yeah?
Androgynous.
Androgynous. It's good to know. Go ahead.
It's an adjective from the 1620s, which means having two sexes, being both male and female. The root is from Proto-Indo-European ner, which means man, and gne, which means woman. Or Gwen is woman.
Okay, and we're not saying biologically there, but I'm saying it's a look that is also popular. So images of beauty change, and one has to be, when one comes in to see the deities, one may then become oriented. What is the beauty of Lord Jagannath? When some people see Lord Jagannath, they think of a totem, Indian totem. It's like, oh, wow, is that from the indigenous, that one I got, people of, and so forth. But Lord Chaitanya, when he saw Lord Jagannath, he saw Gopal playing a flute, saw Krishna there. And premanjana chudita bhakti vilochanena santaksadaiva hṛdayeshu vilokayanti yam shama sundaram achintya ganasarupam govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. When one's eyes are smeared with love, then one can see the beauty of Lord Shamasundar. One can see Shamasundar, you can also see the beauty. So it may take a little purification, to understand. I admit, when I first saw the deities in San Francisco, when I walked in the door, I had no orientation towards deities at all. No one ever told me anything about that, positive or negative. I just came in and everyone was dancing in front of them, and I was happy to look at the flowers for the first couple of weeks. So I thought that God's definitely in the flowers. And then from hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and understand, there's a change of heart and a refocusing of one's vision. Yes, Devavrata.
When you said that, I'm just remembering a story Bhadrani Maharaj tells of the San Diego temple. Anyone who's been to the San Diego temple, they know that when you're greeting the deities there, they run a fountain, and it's right in front of Radha Giridhari. So they had this Mayavadi yoga group come, and they attended the full morning program, and then afterwards they were speaking with Maharaj, and they said, we've really come to understand what the center of this temple is. And they said, it's the fountain.
Case in point. Braja Rasa Bhāvana.
Similar to Kotakarna Prabhu's question, in the Bhagavatam we see different paintings where Krishna is depicted in different colors. Even Prahlad Maharaj, he's described as jet black, but in some paintings he's depicted as fair. And so I was wondering why that is and why like the colors change. Sometimes Krishna is very light blue, sometimes he's very dark blue, as this is described. Is there some reason to that, and how can we just reconcile all the different types of paintings we see?
Well, there's a few different ways you can reconcile. I maybe mentioned here when, who was it? Kunji asked me a question or something at a youth jam. Huh? No, that was about somebody asked me about the color of the Lord, and but anyway, I kind of gave it out of context from what you had said. But somebody asked why Kishore Kishori. They're both white, and somebody asked, Krishna's supposed to be blackish. That's what Krishna means, actually. And so why is he white? And Prabhupada just answered, he said, out of ecstasy. And when you read in the Bhakti-rasamrita Sindhu, you'll find that sometimes Krishna changes color because of ecstasy. He mentioned that. And there's also a detailed explanation by Prabhupada in the Bhagavatam about how Krishna reciprocates the mood of his devotees. He talks about it in the section of Vidura, when Vidura's on pilgrimage and he's going to see all these various deities, and he's describing the variants in the deities and how many manifestations of Krishna are there, unlimited. The Bhagavatam says, just like waves, you can't count them. Waves on a river, they just keep lapping up. And similarly, the incarnations are there. Why? He answers in the section of Vidura, he says that it's because the devotees, they want to worship Krishna in a particular way, so Krishna manifests himself in a particular way. That doesn't mean that we can whimsically do whatever we want. There are shastras that describe how to, and in fact Krishna talks about himself in the Bhagavatam to Uddhava, how to make a deity that represents Krishna, but that those variances may be there representing the mood of the devotee to worship Krishna in a particular way, and he accommodates. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami aham. He's the same Krishna, but he manifests himself in various ways, just very specifically to satisfy the desire of the devotee to see him in a particular way. In fact, you find in the Bhagavatamrita that when Gopakumar is there near Vaikuntha, there are myriad forms coming in and out of the gate of Vaikuntha. And some of them are animal forms and so forth. I quoted earlier on in the class, for some reason, didn't exactly fit, but it was Bhavayat Yesha Sattvena Lokan Vai Loka Bhavana līlā Vataranu Devatiryanaradisu. That in every, Krishna manifests in every species of life. That's what that verse says. Even the vegetable tribes. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said that. He said we can preach even to the vegetable tribes. It may come to that. So, or maybe it already has. So he manifests and Gopakumar sees these various forms. First of all, he thought some of them were Narayan himself, because he looks similar. He looks just the same, except for the Srivatsa. And so he yells out, "Oh, Narayan!" And the people are like, "Hey, cool it! I'm not Narayan. I'm a servant." And then he sees all these other forms, and then Sanatana Goswami explains it's because these other devotees, they conceptualize Krishna in a particular way, and they meditate upon him, and they also take those forms as well, meditating on the form of the Lord. Maybe not eternally, but that's their a specific way of worshiping Krishna. So there is a science, and it's to be adhered to. There are guidelines about how to render the form of Krishna, given by Krishna himself, worth everyone reading that very carefully. In the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the process of deity worship, Krishna explains it, how it works, why it works, and there he is talking about deity worship himself to Uddhava. But then there are these ways in which he can manifest in various colors, forms, and so forth. Does that help? We can just take a couple more because we got to go, right? It's time to go. And we'll be right back.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Krishna is the personality of Godhead. But when he was born, he showed his mother the four-armed form. That looks similar to Vishnu. So my question is, originally is he like two-armed or four-armed? And difficult for me to know whether Vishnu is the original one or the Krishna.
So this follows the same logic of the last answer. Ye yatamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. Krishna manifests himself to Devaki and Vasudeva because their mood is more in awe and reverence of Krishna. So then he appears as Narayan. And of course, in the pastimes in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, when the gopis are trying to find Krishna in the forest, and Krishna hides himself by taking the form of Narayan. So they're looking for Krishna, they're going everywhere, and then they see Narayan and they go up and they offer obeisances and they say, "Do you know where Krishna is?" And so what happens in Vrindavan is Krishna appears from Vasudeva and Devaki in the prison in a four-armed form. And counterintuitively they say, "Oh, please don't appear like this because Kamsa wants to come and kill you." I mean, if you saw Narayan, you think like nobody can kill him. But they had semblance of this, not a semblance, they had a mood of being parents, but it was a little more with awe and reverence. So he appeared in that form, and then when they said, "Please take a baby form." So then Lord Narayan took the form of a baby and executed the mission by empowering Yogamaya to put all the guards to sleep. The shackles fell off from their hands and feet, and he walked out with the baby, crossed the Jamuna, and then when he went to Vrindavan, there was another birth that took place, and that was from Yashoda. She had given birth to twins, and that was Subhadra, the sister, and then was born there Krishna. actually born there from Yashoda. So when Vasudeva brought Vasudeva Krishna there. Vasudeva Krishna, as we know, Krishna is the source of all incarnations. When he appears, everyone's there within him. Vasudeva Krishna entered within the baby Krishna there. And Vasudeva picked up the girl and took her back. And we know that the next day Kamsa was freaked out because he knew the baby was there and he said, it was a girl. What? There had already been a miscarriage and there was a girl and he tried to kill her and she flew up in the air, kicked him in the head and said, you're an idiot. And he started worshiping her because he worshipped Durga. And then he thought, wow, my sister Devaki's pretty cool because she gave birth to her. So it was sleight of hand, very confusing. What I mentioned just now comes from the commentary of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And he gives evidence, Anuja, means the one who was born after Krishna. This is the same womb came out, merging. And from the womb of Yashoda, there was a completely different mood. They didn't even see Krishna was God. They loved him. Everybody loved him. He was the cynosure of all eyes. And they didn't worship him as God. They worshiped him as their child. And even if someone told them that this is God, and it's like, okay, but he's still got to eat. And that's their mood in Vrindavan. The mood of opulence that's there in Vaikuntha, where everyone's like, God is here, let's stand up. That's suppressed so that the love can come out from the hearts of the devotees there and just see him as their friend, as their child, as their lover, and that's what happens in Vrindavan. So it's Krishna's Krishna, it's one Krishna, but he manifests to different devotees according to their mood. And that's what happens in Vrindavan. Last one or two. And then we'll really, okay, keep it short. I'll keep it short.
When you were talking about this pastime of the Krishna manifesting as Narayan in front of the gopis, I was reminded of the pastime I read in Indra Maharaj's Govardhan Līlā book about Chandra Sarovar and the Balaram Mukutshila on Govardhan. And the pastime was about how there was a special Rasa Līlā in Chandra Sarovar where Krishna expands, of course, as many Krishnas, and Radharani expands as many Radharanis. So all the, all the couples are Radha and Krishna, and Balaram is looking for Krishna that evening, and so he climbs Govardhan mountain, and out of ecstasy, when he realizes, when from far he sees that everyone he sees is actually Radha and Krishna, his mukut falls, and that spot is there today as Balaram Mukutshila.
You could stay forever in Vrindavan and find such places of pastimes, one to the next.
Yeah. And then the Baldevji temple, the Auji temple near that place is installed by Vajnab 5,000 years ago. And also in Bhadravan there is Baldev, the village where Balaram is the main deity. It's a very beautiful, big deity. And there's a deity of Rohini also.
Makes us all want to go right away. Okay, really last one.
Actually, mine is just a comment. When Braja Rasa Bhāvana talked about Prahlad Maharaj being white or a black thing, I remembered that, I know many of you must have heard, I don't know, Maharaj, you heard, there's a movie called Mahavatar Nrsimha that's released, and it's, whatever that's called, box office hit in India, and it's making tons of money, and so many people, and I heard that the temples are going together to watch the movie. Can we also go?
I don't know where it is. In LA, there was only one place.
Oh, here we have a lot of almost several AMCs, AMCs and Cinemarks, and there are several locations.
I'd like to see it. I saw the trailer at the TOVP when we went there to the TOVP. I guess it was the ILS or the. Anyway, they showed us the trailer. I thought we were going to see the whole movie, but I was intrigued. It was really amazing, the effects they had done for that. So if we can if you tell where the theater is, if we get a thing like we did last time where we can all go?
We can arrange for a theater ahead of time.
Mountain View?
Yeah, in Mountain View also there's a...
Remember we booked the whole theater?
Yes, yes. We can.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it's a director is supposed to be a devotee, and I don't know much details, but I heard that all of them who watched the movie were literally directly from the pages of Bhagavatam, and the first thank you was to Srila Prabhupada, it seems.
Yeah, definitely. They're devotees. I was there. They were there during the trailer, and I sat next to my brother Vaisesika, who people used to send me his mail, and vice versa. And he said that he'd seen the whole thing many times because they were consulting him to make sure that there was no anomalies in there philosophically. Nirkula, you were going to say? Yeah, we were there for the opening in the Shringa wing of the TOVP, and they showed the trailer. Yeah, so we can go we can go to the movies. As long as it's Krishna, you can go anywhere. So, we'll bring, what is that called, makan? Those round things? We'll bring makana, so we don't have to bring popcorn. Bring your own makana. So on this day of, sorry Preeti Radhika, we got to go. Can you come back tonight and ask again? Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Lakshmi Nrsingadev, Shri Shri Krishna-Balarama, Shri Shri Gaurnitai. If you so desire, please empower us so that we may expand the mission of Lord Krishna in this world, to give everyone an opportunity to connect to you through the Sri Guru Parampara, through transcendental literature, prasadam, and the holy names. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer, in part or in whole. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalptarusha kripatsindabheva patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Fasting till noon. We're starting again at 5 p.m. We'll have bhajans, abhishek, and Krishna kathā. Vanchakalptarusha kripatsindabheva patitanam pavanibhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.